Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Manisha Gupta and I am assistant professor at Noida Institute of Engineering and Technology, and now we are going to resume our session on the subject of business research method. In the last session we have completed the techniques of your qualitative research approach, and now we are going to start the exploratory research design, and in this session we are going to discuss about their content and the types of your exploratory research design. And this is the table of the content of this session, and today we are going to complete exploratory research, what are the characteristics, their type, methodology, the primary research methods in exploratory research design and secondary research method, their advantage, disadvantage and importance of your exploratory research design. So, we have discussed initially about the exploratory research, descriptive research and the casual research in the first video of your second unit, and now we are going to detail of it. Basically, what is the exploratory research design? It is the primary study of unfamiliar problem about which the researchers has little or no knowledge. This type of the study is done when the researcher does not have the very much knowledge about the topic, or they have the very little information available on that situation or the topic. So, for these type of the situation we will conduct the exploratory research, and the objective of the exploratory research is to basically develop hypothesis rather than the testing of the hypothesis. We will do the testing of a hypothesis in your descriptive research design or in your casual research design, and it usually takes the form of a pilot study. Usually it is like a pilot study. Then some questions are often solved in this, and whatever the question we are going to deal is, do the user understand our value product, why the sales are increasing, decreasing or flattening. So, this is a situation in which the company may not have ever seen, or the situation may not ever happen. So, they conduct the pilot study or the exploratory study to understand the situation. The exploratory research is basically conducted to understand the situation or the characteristics of the people. Then the some example of the exploratory research are, and the some method for this study is your either focus group, which we have completed in the last lecture, and also your internet communication communities and other methods were also there in this study. Basically, what is the exploratory research? The exploratory research, as stated, the simplest and mostly loosely structured research design, because we are searching for the unknown. So, in that type of the study, the structured design is not very much beneficial. So, we use the loosely structured design in our exploratory research, and this research approach is very less formal because it is loosely structured, there is no proper structure. And like if you are conducting the focus group interview, then you change the topic, or you are conducting your depth interview. Depth interview is also used in your exploratory research technique. So, in that situation you ask the same question, but in the different way to the different people. It is basically the investigation of the relation among the variables without knowing why they are studied. Basically, what you are doing, you are going to investigate the relationship among the variables without knowing why they are interacting or why you are going to study it, and it has the goal of formulating the problems more precisely. What is the basic objective of it? To formulate the problem or hypothesis, and also it helps you to clarify the concept, gathering the explanation why something is happening, and you also gain the more insight by using these method. Eliminate impractical idea by this, and also you can formulate the hypothesis by exploratory research design, and it also concerned with the describing the characteristics of a particular group or individual. In the exploratory research, you can also describe the characteristics of the group or the individual by using, like if you conduct the focus group, you can make a characteristics how the people are reacting. If you go for the depth interview, you can give the characteristics of a person. And resources required for the exploratory research design could not be limited. There is no limitation for doing the exploratory research and no limitation for the resources. The feature of the exploratory research design is very flexible because no one can predict as how much time and the exploration would be required. That is why it is more flexible. Then the outcome of the exploratory research design are the input to your further type of the research design, like your descriptive study or your casual research design, which manifests to check the scenario of the variable and also manifested from the your exploratory research without existing population. So, these are the feature of your exploratory research design. If you brief it, what are the most important? It is loosely structured, it is a flexible, it required ample of the data, most important techniques involved in it, your focus group, or you can go for interview technique. These are the most important techniques of your exploratory research design. Then some of the characteristics is, it is basically, we talk about the characteristics of exploratory research design. We have discussed in the previous slide that the exploratory research is basically flexible and very versatile, means it is changed from situation to situation. We cannot use the same method with the different set of the population like we do in the survey method. In survey method, you make one instrument and you give the same instrument to the other peoples, but in this type of the research you can change the instrument or the technique with the types of the population you are dealing it. For the data collection, the structure format is not used in this study. Then the experimentation are not very much required in the study. The cost incurred to conduct the study is low because we deal with the small population, that is why the cost is low. And this type of the research allow the wide exploration of views. You get the wide views, you get the wide knowledge about any problem or situation, because it is flexible. You can change the question, you can increase the question, you can do whatever is required to get the knowledge. And the researcher is interactive in nature and also open ended, because you give the open ended questions. What are the following circumstances in which the exploratory study would be ideally studied? In what type of the situation you are going to study the exploratory research? These are the sum of the following. It is not only these study, but some of the following why you conduct the exploratory research. The first is to gain insight into the problem, means if you want to get more information about the problem, you conduct this study, or you want to generate new product idea to find out if there is any gap in the customer satisfaction, you can conduct this study and you will get a new product idea. And to list the all the possibility among the several, and we need to prioritize the possibility which seems likely. Then why do we conduct? It also conduct to develop hypothesis also and establish the priorities so that the further research will be conducted, because exploratory research gives you the background on which the further study is going to conduct. And also the exploratory research may be used to clarify the concept and help the formulating precise problem, and it is to this study also conduct to develop the questionnaire and to pre-trust the draft of the questionnaire, is the question is correct or not, or we need to add some question, you need to delete some question, or we have to change the language of the question. In general, the exploratory research is appropriate to any problem which is very little knowledge. Means if you have the very little knowledge, then this step of the study is good, and the research is the foundation of any future study. Exploratory research give you the foundation for other further studies like your descriptive research or your casual research. Now we are going to study about the type and methodology of your exploratory research. So while there may be many sound or the little difficult to research is something that has very little information, because it is difficult for the researcher if you don't have the much information or have the little information about any event, and there are the several methods which can help the researcher to figure out which is the best research design for their data collection method, for their choice of the subject, for the choice of the sample. But broadly in the exploratory research design, they can conduct mainly in the two platform, either by primary methods, primary or secondary. So we will see what will be the primary method and what will be the secondary methods. In the primary research methods, the primary research are the information gained directly from your subjects or respondent. You will collect the data, you will gather the information directly from your respondents or your subjects, and it can be through the group of the people. You can collect data by, like we have conducted in your focused group. You collected the group of the people, you gave them certain topic and they are discuss on that topic, and you gather the information during their group discussion, or even an individual basis like you do in the interview methods. And such research can be carried out directly by the researcher himself, or he can employ the third party. Means the researcher can carry out the research by himself, or he can employ the third party to conduct the research on his behalf. He can conduct the research on his behalf. And primary, the research is specifically carried out to explore the certain problem which require in-depth study. And in the primary study, you basically get more information, more in-depth information, and you will get more detailed information by these methods, like your survey or polls method. You will conduct a survey in the large area, in the large spot, and where the number of the people will answer, because in the survey method your sample size is very large. So you will get the large information. In interview method, when you interview one to one, there may be the structured interview method or unstructured interview method. In the structured interview method, you have the set of question, and during the interview you follow the same pattern of the question. But in the unstructured interview method, you did not follow the same set of the question or the same sequence of the question. You change its sequence depend upon the interview to whom you are interviewing. If you see them, you understand them, and you change your questions of the language. This will happen in your unstructured interview techniques. Then you can collect the data by focused group discussion. We have seen this topic in our last session. And what was the focused group? The focused group is basically the set of the small group, which may be around 6 to 12% group, on which you gave them certain topic and you lead the discussion there, and you gave them topic, and after that you motivate the people to discuss about that topic. And what the moderator would do there? The moderator was appointed for the group discussion technique, and the moderator record the responses of the people which they are expressing verbally, and they can also record it their non-verbal expressions, like if someone is not responding or not saying anything, but the moderator can record what they are expressing, how they are expressing, what they what was their feeling, how they are either they are nodding head, or they like to see or they don't like to see. So these type of the information is also gathered. And next is your observation method, where the researcher observes what the people are doing in the, or the respondent are doing in the natural settings. and they do not, most of the time they don't tell that they are recording or observing them. And in the observation method is also there are the two technique. In the one technique, researcher involve himself with the group and to see how the people are reacting, or in the second method they did not get involved directly in the group, you just be the outside of the group and see how the people are reacting. So, these were your primary research methods. Next is your secondary research method. So, what are the secondary research method? In the primary research method, you gather the information directly from the respondent. Either you conduct the research by yourself or you hire the third party. But in the secondary research method, you gather the information on which the research is previously done. It depends upon the previous published primary research. Means someone has already done the study and you are referring their study, and in such research you gain information from the source, like you can do for the case study, you can refer the magazines, newspapers, books, there are the journal articles, number of the information, and also the company records. You can also go through the company records in your secondary research method. There are some of the example is like your online research. At present, because of the evolution of your IET and internet, the most of the data and huge data is available online. You just have to type a topic on it and you will get the number of the responses, number of the article. So, either you can conduct the research online basis, or you just gather the literature research, that what have the previous written in the book or they are published as a journal. You can go through those content, and also you can go with the case study research. In the case study research, what is happening? The case is given that a certain situation is happened in the past, and also there is a situation is given that what is happened and how the people are reacted to it, and also you give the case study to the group of people and get to know how the people respond to that situation. So, by this method, and these are your secondary research methods through which you will get the information. And after that, we are going to understand what are the advantage of your exploratory research. The researcher has lot of the flexibility and they can adopt to the change as a research process. Means this study is basically flexible, as we have discussed earlier that this is the very loosely structured research. Loosely structured research means they do not have the very proper format or the structure, and because of that we can change its course of action, or it is susceptible to the change. Because if we see, like in our interview technique or in the focus group, if we see the certain techniques are not working, then respondent what they do? Respondent can change their techniques or the set of the question so that they get the proper response from it. So, it shows that this study is flexible and they can adopt to change as the research progress. This can be changed when the research is means when we conduct a research is going on, and in that situation you can change it some element of the research, because this is not very stringent research, not very rigid, because we not get the very rigid data and the rigid pattern is followed in this type of the study. Next is it helps to lay the foundation of the research which can lead to the further research, because we know this type of the study exploratory research is basically done in what field where you do have the very little data or the no data available for you. So, when you do the exploratory research means you explore things, you give them the ground for doing the further research, you give them the basis for conducting the further research. Most of the time after the exploratory research and because of the outcome of the exploratory research, the people will conduct descriptive research or the casual research, and it enables the researcher to at a early stage understand at the early stage that if the topic is worth of investing time and resources, and if it is worth of pursuing or not. By suppose you are conducting the focus group interview, that at a very initial stage and you want to know about the new product development, you have developed a new product and you will give to that focus group. You will, by giving them, you get to understand that this type of the research is worth of it, and at the initial stage you will get to know is this research is worth of investing time or money or not, or it is worth of pursuing or not, because at initial stage you get to understand the worth of that research in your exploratory research technique. Then it can assist the other researcher to find out the what is a possible cause for the problem, because at this point we have seen that it lead to the future research, and when it lead to the future research, then it helps the researcher to find out what is the possible cause for the problem. You may get to understand what is the possible cause for the problem, and which can be further studied in detail to find out which of them is the most likely the cause of the problem. In this step you will get to understand that what are the various causes of the problem. Suppose you started with the management problem, you conduct the exploratory research, you will get to understand what are the major causes of the problem, and by doing the further study you will get to know what is the most likely cause of the problem, means what is the most likely cause of this problem, why this problem has actually happened. So, this will give you the ground for which the most likely the problem has occurred, means you conducted the exploratory research, you get the around 4 reasons for the cause of the problem, and when you conduct the further more research you will get exactly what is the most important cause of that particular problem. Then what is the disadvantage of your exploratory research? If we are conducting the exploratory research, then what will the disadvantage of your exploratory research is? Basically first is even though it can point out in the right direction toward what is answered, and usually it is inconclusive, means you cannot derive the actual conclusion from this type of the research. They just give you the direction of the answer, but they cannot give you the exact answer to your management questions of the problem. They give you the broad idea that what should be the probable answer of it, but by exploratory research we not get the conclusive answers to our problem. And next is the main disadvantage of the exploratory research is that it provide your qualitative data, and we all know that the qualitative data is difficult to analyze and interpret, because these data will be in your either in a text or in a picture or in a video format, which is basically difficult in analyzing and understanding and deriving the conclusion from it. And the interpretation of the search information can be judgmental, and that is susceptible to the biasness, because it depends on the your researchers or the person who is going to interpret that data. So, the interpretation of or the conclusion which is derived from the data, it can be judgmental, means because it is dependent upon the person who has analyzed it, and if the person is biased or they do not have that much of the information in that area, then your research will be hampered by these points. Then most of the time the exploratory research involve the small sample, and hence the research can be accurate and cannot be generalized, means you cannot generalize result in these study, because the sample which you have deal with is the small sample. Like your focused group or the interview technique, you are not targeting the large problem, you are targeting only small problem, and many time the data which is collected in your secondary research, it may be old and it may not be updated. And in the last, what is the important and why we carried out the exploratory research. First is, it give you need to depth understanding of that particular situation or problem. You get the depth or deep understanding of that particular problem, and especially if it is has not done before, means if there is no research is carried out in that particular area. Then next is, the goal of the researcher is to explore the problem and around it and not actually derive the conclusion. You will get to understand the problem in this situation. When you do not understand the problem, you will conduct the exploratory research to understand what is the problem and what is the situation around it, and by this research you will not get the conclusion, but you understand the problem. Next is, the such kind of the research will enable the researcher to set a strong foundation for exploring his idea and his choices and the right research design, because by this you will be able to choose the right research design, find the variable and actually are important, and because these all things are important for analysis of your data. And most importantly, such research can help the organization or research to save lots of the time if the researcher is able to understand that this research is worth of pursuing it or not. So, thank you everyone. This is all for the today. See you in the next session.